What's going on, guys? Welcome to LowKick MMA UFC 252 preview show. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway. Join me as always, Jordan Ellis. How you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Fights back in Vegas. Pay-per-view in the small cage again. We've got the trilogy fight between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. It's going to be a massive event. Lots of other good fights on here. I think for like the pay-per-view, this is quite a solid card, especially the main card in this one. It's quite a solid main card. What do you think of the card in general?
Um, Obviously, I'm not someone who has to worry too much about these pay-per-views. Like, I'm not paying $60 for pay-per-views. I don't think the main card's particularly strong. If you're paying $60 for it, I wouldn't want to pay $60 for it. And I get the main fight's a really good fight, but beyond that, you've got O'Malley who is only just ranked at Bantamweight. I know he's very popular and things like that, but it's not the biggest fight in the co-main event. And then you've got that's a really good heavyweight fight. And then beyond that, you've got a good fight between Dodson and Devashali, is it? And but then under that, there's not a lot I'd want to pay for. So it's not the strongest pay-per-view card. Obviously, we did just lose a fight. The light heavyweight guys fell out off the card, so that doesn't help. But it's a good card, for someone like me who gets it for free, and I'm gonna be happy about that. But then there's other people who are paying for it who probably aren't as happy as I am.
Yeah, I think you're right. But in my opinion, the main card is quite strong. Now that the Ankalev and Kudalaba fight's been taken off, the Herbert Burns fight against who's he fighting? Daniel Pineda, I believe. That was bumped onto the main card now, so that'll take that spot.
Okay.
We'll jump into the main event first, though. Obviously, the trilogy fight, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. We've seen it twice now. We've seen it go both ways, both by knockout, one by proper knockout, one by TKO, I guess. And you know what? I think in this one, the small cage is going to have a big... Obviously, everyone said it leading up to this. The small cage is going to have a big impact on this fight. And I really think it lends itself to favour Cormier. It's his final fight. He's obviously put all the preparation he could into this fight. Having that smaller cage, he said he's going to wrestle. He'd be smart to wrestle. I think it's going to really help him in his game plan. And I think he should be able to take a victory here. What do you think of the fight?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a great fight. It's one of the best, the best trilogies ever. It's so tight between them both. I am edging towards Cormier just because, usually I would tend to back the person who won the second fight, especially when if you compare it to Kane against JDS. JDS got that big quick knockout, the same to Cormier, and then Kane come back and he dominated the second fight. But the problem with that kind of method of thinking is Daniel Cormier dominated a lot of that last fight, so it's hard to pick against him because he only lost a few minutes and then it just all went to pot for him. But I like the way he's speaking. He's speaking about wrestling. He's speaking about mixing it in. I'd really just fancy him to win this one. I expect him to get it done and pick up a decision or maybe even stop Stipe in the later rounds.
He really is going to have to rely on his wrestling because if he does that hands-out clinching thing like he was doing in the second fight and what he did in the first fight before he got the finish, he's just going to get ripped to the body. Stipe knows now that's going to be what Stipe goes for from round one. I guarantee you. Straight out the gate, he's going to be trying to hit Cormier in the body. If Stipe's smart, he'll throw some leg kicks in there. He'll try and beat his legs down, get rid of the mobility, make him fear taking a shot, because if he's getting beaten up in the legs, he's not going to want to change levels down there. Because he might get kneed. But yeah, Stipe's going to have to attack that body. I think that's going to be his game plan going in as well, because I obviously had success in the last one. So DC, if he wrestles and he can get a hold of Stipe, and once he gets a hold of Stipe, look at the first round of their last fight. He held him down for the majority of the round, right? So if he can get a hold of Stipe, he can probably keep him down for the whole round. And the longer he keeps him down, the more he's going to wear on him, and the more it'll probably become easier for him to control him on the ground later in the fight. So I don't see this being the most exciting end to the trilogy, but I see it being a definitive win for Cormier. And if it is his final fight, good way to go out,
I think there will be moments as well where Cormier decides to stand up. I don't think it's not that he can't outstrike Miocic because we've seen him do it. He did it for about 15 minutes in the last fight. He really put it on him. He just got a bit overconfident and was dropping his hand on Miocic, no respect in the end, really. So I think you'll see him mixing the striking, and that'll make him so much more dangerous because Miocic is not just going to be waiting for a shot because then you can react and you can defend it. He's going to be getting punched in the face at the same time he's defending the shot, and I think that's what is going to make Cormier, such a handful. And then yeah, obviously he's 41, so unless he's aged, since we last seen them fight, I really do fancy Cormier in this one, quite big, and it doesn't. I hope he goes off into the sunset, and then Miocic, win or lose, he gets the next title shot anyway. So, yeah, I think it's a great fight. I think Cormier's gonna get the trilogy, and it'll go down UFC history, and they'll both be number 1 and 2 when it's all said and done in heavyweight division anyway. So, props to both guys. It's the amazing athletes.
Yeah, I think we're both taking DC on this one. So I have two more things to bring up. The first one, you said you think Stipe gets the next title shot. I thought this, but after watching interviews with people and listening to like other MMA journalists talk and stuff, I'm convinced myself sort of that they'll skip over Stipe in the next shot if he loses this, just because he's had so many title fights, right? I feel like I'm leaning towards more that they're going to give Francis someone new in that title shot. Should Stipe lose and Cormier vacate, I don't know if it'll be Jones. I don't think it'll be Jones. That seems more likely to me if Stipe wins that they throw Jones in there. But possibly Jones, or maybe they even just do a Derek Lewis versus Ngannou for the title, although the first one was pretty lackluster, so maybe they wouldn't be interested in that. But I can't really see them giving Stipe another title fight if he loses this fight. Not immediately. They'll make him go and have another win first. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if there was another exciting contender there, obviously the only other contender who's maybe worthy or close to being worthy of a title shot is Curtis Blades, and Francis Ngannou's beat him twice. So, and he's a wrestler. Like if he's gonna win, he's gonna win a 5-round boring decision. So the UFC aren't gonna give him a title shot until he's literally banging the door down. I think Stipe, as much as he has had title shots, he is, the most winning heavyweight of all time in terms of being a champion and defending his belt, and he's always an exciting fight. So I don't accept for that Francis one, but I'm pretty sure I think that's the fight they'd make. I don't think they would skip over him. I know he felt a little hard done by at times by the UFC, but I still feel entertainment wise and pay-per-view wise, unless they can get John Jones in there against Ngannou, Stipe Miocic is the second biggest fight. So I think that's what they'll go with.
That's exactly what I was going to say. How would you feel if they threw Jones in there with Ngannou for the vacant title?
I'd be very happy. I think it's one of the biggest fights you can make in MMA. I think it's a great fight. It's a true test for John Jones, who we've wanted to move up to heavyweight. Anyway, I have for quite some time. So it's very dangerous, but it's very winnable as well. We've seen Stipe out-grapple him, quite easily. Can he do it again? Can John Jones do it again? Can John Jones do it if he moves up? And I just want John Jones to move up. Now, that his career at light heavyweight seems to be a bit dead. He doesn't seem to be too interested in these fights. People who I think he should be eating quite easily, he's having trouble with because he's not motivated. So you go up to heavyweight, you fight Francis Ngannou. One thing you're going to be is motivated because you don't want to be getting absolutely starched in front of the whole world. So, John Jones would be the best John Jones on that day, making money, being happy, fighting against the best people. So that's the fight to make. Do I think he can make it? Not yet anyway. I think it will be Stipe. Win or lose, he will fight Ngannou next.
Well, you'd want to be motivated if you get in there against Ngannou, otherwise it's going to be a short night. But I feel like if Stipe loses this, especially if it's a war where he takes a lot of damage and he loses, especially if Cormier takes damage too, because one other thing I was going to bring up, maybe Cormier stays and takes on Jones at heavyweight if he wins, Maybe that's an option that they could do. But if he takes a lot of damage in this fight, obviously I can't see him fighting again. And if Stipe takes a lot of damage as well and Cormier vacates, they would look to do something like that, bring Jones up and have Ngannou and Jones fight for the vacant belt, because you don't know how long like Stipe is going to be out or DC is going to be out, But back to what I was saying, if Cormier wins, do you think there's a chance he doesn't retire and takes on Jones for the heavyweight title?
I think there's a chance. There's more of a chance he'll stay and fight Ngannou. I think Ngannou is a very appealing fight for him, whereas obviously Ngannou's the best of the rest, basically, isn't he? He's the one guy who everyone will say if Cormier walks away, how would he have done against Ngannou? Like, and I think he'll be really confident in that fight. I think if they could get him a quick turnaround, get him maybe fighting in November, December time against Ngannou for the heavyweight title for a bunch of money, I think he'd take that. Anything before the end of the year, I think he'd take. I think trying to arrange a John Jones Steve fight will be a bit too problematic. Where I think he'll just leave that. But the Ngannou one will be pretty simple. I think Ngannou will take whatever they give him in terms of money. Cormier will negotiate his, massive purse, I'm sure, and then he'd make that fight. I think that's very realistic. I think John Jones 3, as much as I want to see it, I don't think it's very realistic at all that we're gonna get. I think that's done now.
I disagree, and I especially disagree because I think, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious how a Cormier versus Ngannou fight goes, right? We saw Stipe out-wrestle Ngannou for 5 rounds. Cormier's going to do the same thing, so I don't feel like it's such a big question mark on what would happen. I don't think that's a fight he needs before he retires. Whereas he wants to get this Jones back because he lost the first 2. He's always said that heavyweight's where he belongs. He's always said he wants the 3rd fight. If Jones wants a big fight, Jones has said he wants a big fight. He wanted Ngannou at heavyweight. If Jones goes up and beats Cormier at heavyweight again, there's the Ngannou fight next, right? So I see that. I don't know. I can't see. I think DC retires, right? If I'm having to make a bet on this, I think DC does retire and doesn't fight again. But if he does fight, I can see it being Jones or no one else. I can't see him fighting anyone else.
I just feel like he needs to be done by the end of the year. I don't think he's going to be someone who's fighting in 2021. Do I think they're able to get John Jones back from his little hiatus, convince him to fight Daniel Cormier, market a fight, go through all that, and then get to the fight night unscathed by the end of the year? I just don't think they can. Whereas I think they could make a Francis Ngannou fight really easily. And if Cormier wants to stick around for a few more months, he could do that. But I think a Jones fight would be more likely for next summer. It'll take a bit longer, I think, to negotiate that because both men are going to want serious money because it probably is one of the biggest fights in MMA then, isn't it? Like, it's much bigger than Ngannou against either guy, in my opinion. So I just think things will get in the way of that, especially both men, they don't like each other. So even negotiations, it'll be like, he's getting more money than me, blah, blah, blah. That's what I think might hold that up. It's not a lack of want from either side. It's just politics kind of getting in the way. I agree, though. I do think he'll walk away most likely, but if the UFC are quick with putting Ngannou on the table, he might reconsider. But I think we'll see him win or lose. He'll retire on the weekend, and that should be that.
Well, that's what I was going to end it with. He has to get through Stipe first, and that's no easy task. So we'll see how that one unfolds. Moving on to the co-main event. The rising superstar in the UFC, the next big star. If he can get past this test this weekend, he's just going to skyrocket overnight, especially if he does it the way he's finished the rest of his fights. Sean O'Malley taking on Marlon Vera, who's arguably on a 6-win streak. Finished 5 of his opponents, then lost that decision where a lot of people thought he won. So this is a really important fight in the Bantamweight division, in my opinion, just because of how big a deal Sean O'Malley is at this time. He's probably the biggest player in the division outside of the champion. There's no one else that brings the hype that Sean O'Malley does at the moment. And if he can get through Marlon Vera and put himself into the top 10, the top 8, or wherever he'll sit after this, I reckon 1 or 2 fights from a title shot, And Marlon Vera's no easy night. So Marlon Vera, if he can pull off the upset here, he's going to skyrocket as well. So it's an important fight. What are your thoughts?
It's a really good fight, and it's Sean O'Malley is obviously the next big star, but he's got to prove it. And this is a real big jump from no disrespect to his other opponents, no disrespect for Eddie Wineland. This is a massive step up, and he's talking the same, and he's almost bit overconfident for my liking to say you're going to knock out Marlon Vera in the first round is a bit disrespectful, and it's almost a bit naive because Marlon Vera's never been stopped. He's one of the toughest guys in the division. He's a serious guy. He might not be ranked, but that's just unfortunate on his part. He should be ranked. He is one of the top guys. So I don't know what I expect. I think obviously when someone's so confident and it's that Conor McGregor aura thing and he's predicting these knockouts, and you kind of want it to happen just to just to see carnage unfold. But I think it'll probably be a 3-round, a bit more tactical from Sean O'Malley. I think he'll respect him in the end, and he'll realise he can't get him out there, and then he might point him over 3 rounds and get the decision. But I really am 50-50 because if Sean O'Malley's not what we think he is, Marlon Vera's gonna, really have his way with him, and he's gonna cause a big upset. But I kind of want to see the O'Malley train keep on rolling, and I want to see him in these big fights. It's really exciting. I want to see another highlight reel KO. But he needs to be careful. He needs to respect Vera, and I'm sure he does, and I hope he does, because it could go wrong otherwise. And the highlight reel KO we could be seeing is from Vera. So very excited about this one. It's a very interesting fight, which I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. So I am kind of just sitting back and trying to enjoy this one rather than predict it. I am edging towards O'Malley. It's hard not to with all the momentum behind him, but I'm very aware that Vera is a live dog, and I'd imagine the odds are a bit disrespectful right now on his behalf. And like, if I'm going to be betting on the weekend, it'll be on Vera because it is a 50-50 in my eyes, and he could pull it off. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, well, this is a fight where both these guys are two of my favorites in the bantamweight division. Two of my favorites in the UFC in general, actually. And to put them together each other, awesome, because I like both guys. I like watching them fight. So happy they're fighting. Also not happy they're fighting because one of them has to lose, right? Going into this, I think O'Malley's confidence is good. That's just his person, right? That's just how he is. So him being confident probably helps him in the cage, makes him more, helps him concentrate, right? He knows what he's doing. I don't think he's looking past Vera. He's been quite respectful in the lead up, like saying Vera's a tough challenge. He's not looking past him for the title or nothing. I see this going a number of ways. I can see Sean O'Malley knocking him out. I can see Sean O'Malley outpointing him. I can see Cheeto knocking O'Malley out. I can see Cheeto submitting O'Malley. But I can't really see Cheeto outpointing O'Malley. That's the one option I can't see. Because all of Marlon's losses have come like where he's been outpointed. Like, he's just thrown less, and that's what's lost him the decision. And O'Malley's like a longer dude. He's able to sit on the outside if he wants to and just poke at him. So I think if it goes to a decision, I'm leaning towards O'Malley. But either one of these guys can finish the other at any time. So that's why this fight's so exciting, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. I think the decision is the most likely one. I think, it's a good test for O'Malley. It's a good chance for him to get 3 rounds in. I agree that, Vera, he's going to struggle to land on O'Malley, and obviously, like, he is elusive. He's got that range he uses, and he might just be able to pop shot him. I think he'll go for the knockout early, and he'll realise it won't come in, and then he'll be smart about it. But everything about O'Malley has got Conor McGregor vibes, where this reminds me of when Conor fought Poirier, and he kept saying first round knockout, and everyone's saying, don't be so silly, that's just disrespectful. And then he went and did it. So if O'Malley goes and actually first round knockouts Marlon Vera, he's cracked it. Like, he's already cracked it because he's selling, thousands of pounds worth of merch in 3 seconds or whatever he's doing. So he's already onto something. But it's just the next level if he manages that. And then from there, he was saying the other day it would be a top 5 guy, and I agree. There's no slowing down this train now. I think if he knocks out Marlon Vera, it's just gonna go. It's just gonna be pandemonium, and you're gonna have to give him one of the top guys. So, but if a decision is probably the best route to victory for him, not for his fans watching and things like that, but it slows it down because once he's in the top 5, he's swimming with sharks then, and it's a tough task for anyone, no matter how good you are. So. Very exciting fight. In my mind, it's a 50-50. Either guy can win. And just don't count out Marlon Vera because he's live dog in this one.
Before we move on, I usually ask what do you think will happen if whoever wins. But I think we know what happened if either guy wins. They're going to go fight a top 5, top 10 guy. What happens if O'Malley loses this one? What do you think it does to his career?
It depends how he loses, doesn't it? Because if you're getting absolutely starched, this is not good for anyone. It's not good for someone, especially like him, who's so fueled by his confidence, But if he gets outpointed or outmaneuvered and maybe just outsmarted by a more of a veteran fighter, then there's no shame in that. He can come back, he can bounce back, he can learn. So it's all about how he loses, how he looks losing. There's no shame in losing. Everyone's got to lose at some point. He will lose at some point. I've got no doubt about that. So it's about how you lose and how damaging the loss is. I don't think he'd probably drop out the rankings and then he'd fight someone on the edge, and Nathaniel Wood or someone like that. He's not. He'd still be in the mix. He'd just one win. He'd be back in the rankings, in my opinion.
Fair enough. We'll move on to the heavyweight bout right before that one between Junior Dos Santos and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Obviously, two big hitters. I think this fight, it's interesting because Rozenstruik's like a time bomb, right? At any moment, he can put your lights out. Whereas we've seen Dos Santos fight people like this. He fought Derek Lewis and TKO'd him, right? That was another fighter where he's got stupid power in his hands. So I am leaning towards Dos Santos picking up the win here by just outpointing him, hurt him to the body probably, and just, generally beating him on the feet. But on the other hand, Jairzinho's a better striker than Derek Lewis is technically. Like, he's more technically sound. So this could go either way. What are your thoughts?
I'm edging towards the Santos. I just think I'm not exactly convinced by Rozenstruik yet. I think he was pushed a little bit quick. I think he got it. He got a couple of good wins, but he was losing against Overeem. I know he come back and he won, in the final seconds. But Overeem is, with all due respect, way past his best now, and he beat Rozenstruik for pretty much 5 rounds, and then he got caught. So that's a worrying sign for me that he's been able to get dominated by someone who's way past the prime. And then obviously what happened last time is a big red flag, as we were saying in the last one about O'Malley. If O'Malley gets starched like that, I'd be worried for him. You know what I mean? And so I am really worried for Rozenstruik coming back from that quite quickly. How his headspace is. I think if he gets it done, he'll get it done early. He'll just go and wipe the floor with JDS, and it'll be back to momentum, back to, on his way to a title shot. But I don't see that happening. I see him struggling with JTS and struggling to handle him and either being outpointed or stopped in the, second or third round. And that's probably what I'm leaning towards. I think JDS is also past his prime, but he's still a handful for, even the top guys. So, and I just don't think Rozenstruik is at that level yet. He's been pushed a bit too quick. He took a big loss, and this is not an easy fight to come back to, so I think he might lose again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only 15 minutes, right? If it was a 25-minute fight, I'd probably take Rozenstruik just because of what he did to Overeem. Like, he carries power late in the fight. But it's only 15 minutes. I think JDS is probably able to be technically sound for 15 minutes, stay out of danger, and just outpoint him. But we'll see how that one goes. Moving on, I was about to say the opening fight, but it's not. The second fight on the main card, John Dodson versus Merab Dvalishvili. So, two ranked bantamweights, number 12, number 15. I heard talks that the winner of this wants to fight the winner of O'Malley Vera, but I'm not convinced on that. I think the winner of O'Malley Vera is going to go on to a bit higher than this. Anyway, good fight. Merab called out O'Malley after his last win. You know what Dvalishvili is going to do? He's going to try and wrestle. He does it to everyone. He's really, really good at it. John Dodson's really good at not getting taken down, and when he does get taken down, he's really good at springing back up. He's also really good on the feet. He's got great striking. So I am leaning towards Dodson to upset in this one, I know that Merab's like everyone thinks he's just like a crazy, like, you know how the Dagestanis are with their wrestling? Everyone thinks he's similar to that. He's just a machine. But I don't think he is. Because if you look at his last fight, he got plus 10 takedowns. But the guy was able to get up over and over again. That's the only way you get 10 plus takedowns is if the guy's able to get up. And I feel like Dodson, if he can't stop the takedown, he'll be able to spring up and deal some damage after he gets up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, there was a lot of hype on Merab after his last fight, but I weren't too impressed just because, as you were saying, the guy kept getting up. He was a late replacement, so he weren't really, a heralded opponent. This is a big jump. John Dodson's a serious guy. I don't particularly like Dodson fighting at bantamweight. I prefer him at 125, and I hope he drops back down because I feel like he might lose to guys like Merab who maybe aren't on his level, but they might just be a bit bigger. So I can see it kind of working like that. I can see Merab maybe just being a bit relentless and eking out his decision over 3 rounds. I think that's how I see it going, and then hopefully we see John Dodson drop back down because he's a small guy. He's one of the smallest guys on the roster, I'd imagine. So I want to see him 125 fighting at his true weight, and that 125 belt's right there. It's all you need to do is beat one of the top contenders, and he's next in line. He's a name. He's got stuff to sell. So in an ideal way, because I'm a bit of a fan of Dodson, he kind of gets the win here and then decides to drop down anyway. But I think it's going to be. I'm not expecting an exciting fight. I'm expecting a pretty boring one. I expect Marab just to kind of grind it out. Maybe similar to what we seen Wilden do the other day. Not impressive, but he won, and I kind of expect the same.
Yeah, I mean, Dodson, now Demetrius Johnson's not there, he could move down and make a title run. I think you're right. And that might be a good move for him because, like I say, he's quite small. Yeah, this fight, I'm going to take Dodson just because I wasn't impressed with Merab in his last fight. I see how dominant he could be, but I haven't bought onto it yet. Maybe after this one I will if he goes out there and smashes Dodson. But, I'll have to see it before I make up that decision. Opening the main card, Herbert Burns, brother of Gilbert Burns, fighting Daniel Pineda, who was in the UFC years and years ago, went to Bellator, went to PFL, now he's back. This fight, you've got Herbert, who's obviously a great jiu-jitsu player. He's a great on the ground. He's really good at grappling. He's also got some decent power in his hands, but grappling's where he's going to do the majority of his fighting. Pineda is a striker that has wrestling too. I can't see him wanting to wrestle. I know Herbert Burns was saying at the media day today that he thinks Pineda's going to try and wrestle him, but I don't know why he would, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm just loving a look over Daniel Pineda now because when you said that, the name rang a bell, and it's just, I think his last two fights have been made to a no
Yeah, they
contest.
have.
So he is technically on a bit of a table. Unofficially, he's not on a table. So I like Herbert Burns on this one. I think he's just got that aura about him. The same with Gilbert, really, where I don't know. He just makes me confident in him whenever he fights. I just always fancy him to win, and his last fight was so impressive as well. So I'm backing Herbert Burns. I think he seems to be gathering momentum towards something. He seems to be a serious player, even if he hasn't got the ranking or anything like that yet. So I'm just backing him to pull this off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he gets a submission.
Exactly how?
There you go. What are you saying?
Yeah, exactly how. I'm not sure. Yeah, but he just seems to be into that. He's beat Evan Dunham and Nate Landauer, and they're two good wins. And I think Daniel Pineda is probably not being fighting on this level. Like he's been over at PFL and things like that. So it is an adjustment, to jump from that level to fighting someone of Herbert Burns' level, and I think he'll find out yet. So maybe he'll get the submission. I expect him to stop him within 3.
I think he gets the submission in the first. I think he tags him on the feet. Pineda shoots and he gets submitted. That's my prediction for that one. And that wraps up the main card. Was there any other fights you want to touch on, or are we good to wrap it up?
I think the feature prelims, we have to shout Jim Miller. Obviously, he had a great win last time against Roosevelt Roberts. He was rolling back the years and taking out these guys. And then you've got Vince Patelli, he's kind of one of them. He just hasn't fought enough in his UFC career. He's been inactive since he was in Tough, all them years ago. I think he was in Tough in 2012, and he's fought about 5-6 times since. So want to see him being active. He also got a win over Roosevelt Roberts in his last fight. So it's a good measuring stick to see where these two are. And I'm picking Jim Miller. I really liked him last time. I thought he's ruthless with that armbar, and if the fight goes to the mat, I expect him to get something again. But I think this might be, it could be a fight of the night, that one. And then before that, we've got Felice Herrig, who hasn't fought in a minute. I don't know how long it's been since we've seen her fight, but it seems to have been a while. Yeah, 2018 we last seen her fight. So another player added to that division. So happy to see her back in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst card. Like I was saying, like the main card's really good, and even the prelims aren't too bad. But it's not like. Do you know what was crazy? The last card, the Derek Lewis one, the prelims on that, I didn't really know many people on at all, but the fights were so good. So I'm hoping this card's going to be similar to that one, where all the fights are just solid. Otherwise it's going to be a long night for you.
Yeah, it's always the way, but it's this is a good card, just obviously because it's so stacked at the top. But if you're a paying customer and you're paying for that main card and you're getting John Dodson and Herbert Burns and then fights, you're not going to be too impressed. But when I see these pay-per-view cards, just in my mind, it's not like no one else needs to agree, but I like this. I like to be speaking about every fight on the card and saying that's a great fight. That we've just skipped over a lot of that undercard because it's not really. It's not really a top undercard, is it?
That's true.
So I like to see everything stacked, even though this bit's free. I like to see everything stacked top to bottom. Me and you have to talk about every fight in the card, and we're here for an hour and a half. That's what I want from your pay-per-views. And we haven't got it this one. It's still good though. It's really top heavy in my opinion, but it's a great card.
Yeah, the last time we did that was UFC 249, I believe. That was the one where it was stacked top to bottom. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we get this one done?
No, good.
Cool. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll speak to you after the event to wrap up the action.